Hello, folks. My name is Ray Nault. I am the Vice President of Information Technology and Compliance here for Higher Education Assistance Group. We have a few more people who will be signing on, so with your patience, if you give me just a few more minutes, we will start momentarily. We are recording this session, so that way if anyone would like to refer to it in the future, once we have the location for you, we will certainly send it out to the group so that way you can refer to it in the future. All right, so if you have any questions at all, you can certainly feel free to ask questions at the question and answer session. We have a colleague of mine who's monitoring that. There will be a point during this session that if you have any questions, you can certainly feel free. I'll unmute all the phones for everybody so you can ask questions. If you want to unmute your phone, I believe you can do so by clicking the mute button on the WebEx participation piece. If you don't see that, we'll unmute everybody momentarily. So again, if you have any questions, you can certainly ask them, but we'll entertain those general questions at a certain point throughout the session. So just a minute or two more to have everyone sign in, and then we'll start this. All right, so I ask for your continued patience, and we'll get started shortly. Folks, we are going to start this session. This is really going to be FISAP reporting for banner users. In most of the cases, if you need a refresher, we're going to go over how you can utilize the banner functionality to a good portion of your FISAP report taken care of. My name is Ray Nault. I'm the Vice President of Compliance and Information Technology for Education Assistance Group based in Boston, Massachusetts. We have a variety of clients throughout the country, and I did on my travels over the last couple of months that FISAP reporting and getting that information out of Banner has been a challenge. So what better way to help schools than to present our first one of the series for this year. We'll be having several others. One next month is on New Year Roll. So if you have an interest in learning about a New Year Roll or just want to see a different perspective, that'll be coming out in October, roughly around the same time as this one. So more to come and great exciting opportunities here. This session, it does require that you have loaded or will be installing 8.15 for doing the FISAP. Without that, it is incorporated in 8.14.2, but there are some defects in that are corrected in 8.15. Okay. If you have any questions at all, feel free to ask them. You can shoot your questions to the question and answer session. I have a colleague here who is monitoring them, so you can certainly ask those. Those are going to be answered relatively quickly. He'll respond to you. And the general session here, we'll have open it up for other questions halfway through. We are have a session recorded, so other schools can share this with colleagues or other schools. You can also refer to it, and it's completely free. There's no charge to you to participate in this webinar. It's really there as an opportunity to, let you see what's out there available to you. And if you need support, you can certainly reach out to myself or the company, and we can certainly help you navigate the banner process and getting things taken care of. Okay. We will certainly, the WebEx does include this PowerPoint presentation, so you can download the PowerPoint presentation. If you don't get it, at the end of the PowerPoint, you'll see my email. You can certainly feel free to email me, and I will shoot you your the PowerPoint presentation. All right. So without further ado, we will get started. What I'm going to cover in this is how to run that FISAP report, how to reconcile the data that's contained in this report, and how do you make adjustments to student level data as well. This works fairly well, and with any computerized system, there are pitfalls with some of the data, so we're going to show you how to navigate that process, verify the data before you start going through the FISAP process. So for the new folks here, what does FISAP mean? On a headache, it stands for Fiscal Operation Report and Application to Participate, so FISAP. This is required for those schools who have campus-based aid and want to continue to have campus-based aid each year. So Federal Work Study, SCOG, and Perkins. There are 6 different areas to the FISAP application. The schools identifying information, the application to participate, the Federal Perkins Loan Information, SCOG, Work Study, and overall program information, who was eligible based on income, how much you spent per income grid, and so forth. The report that we're going to provide you does provide a good portion of this. For Perkins, unless you have a college loan management system, which is part of the Banner module, you'll probably have to work with your business office or Perkins Loan third-party entity to get the Perkins Loan information. FG, relatively done in the system, especially if you're doing all the awarding in the Banner system. Work study can be done in there as well. The only level of complexity with work study is that even if you don't pay work study through Banner HR or Banner Payroll, you can still manage the work study process in the in Banner and have the system actually provide all the necessary information without having to go outside of Banner to get all that information. It's a bit of a workaround, but it can be done. I have a few clients that actually just have Banner financial aid and student accounts with no HR or payroll. And all that functionality still exists on the financial aid side. They still record all the paid amounts in work study and able to use a lot of the basic work study reports to help with management of it. So it all can be done inside Banner in order to get all of this information onto that FISAP report, hopefully making your experience with the FISAP less painful. So to start, you want to have aspirin and a martini handy. You know, that makes this whole process so much easier. But really, you know, you'll be relieved once it's taken care of. What we'll go through the FISAP process is really going to go through the step-by-step process. And yes, you're going to see the job ROR FS12 quite a bit. It's got off with creating all the temporary information. We're going to check the data against the Banner information that we have. We're going to run again to create the audit list of students to see who's still got errors, who needs to be resolved. If anything needs to be updated, we will make changes on the update FISAP form. And finally, we're going to run the final report, ROR FS12, again to provide the student listing, the income grid, program summary, and the control grid that we all need to complete the FISAP application. Now, again, this is really just geared toward the Banner information to grab all the information inside Banner. We're not going to go through how to actually update the federal website and do so. I consider that to be pretty self-explanatory, since the report that we're going to get from Banner will tell you what lines to pull from and where to populate it on a FISA application. I will take any recommendations if you feel that would be helpful in the future if we do this again. The feedback you have on how we can improve this session, a PowerPoint would be greatly appreciated. How the report works. It looks at any and all needs analysis data that exists inside Banner. If any data is missing when you run this processing, it provides you the reject reports to do so, and those rejects need to be cleaned up. If any estimated contributions, for example, some schools who have missing a FAFSA signature page, but you want to force an EFC into the system just to determine what the estimated package is, especially for first-year students. If there's an estimated contribution, an ICER reject condition will exist, and that information will be excluded on the FISAP. That's one area that you need to review, that if there's any estimated contributions that still exist in 1112 have not been resolved. Those need to be fixed in order for FISAP to work correctly. Otherwise, you have to make those changes manually. Okay. If the total family contribution is blank for those schools who do the CSS profile or ACT, because the information is populated, as long as the family contribution is not blank, it'll include that information on the FISAP. But if the information is blank, then they'll get a reject again on that application. So the report does a fairly good job of verifying the data to make sure it's actual students who received Title IV aid and dispersed. Okay. Some limitations on this are, again, the award year here, July 1st to June 30th. And dependency status, well, and it depends on dependency status and income information existing in Banner. Okay. If you pay work study, we all treat summer differently. Some schools treat the entire summer period as an entire period, regardless of how many modules are in there. If you pay work study after the June 30th time frame, you'll need to be aware that any changes that have been made after any earnings made after June 30th will need to be updated manually. We'll go over that on the form. Okay. The deadline is October 1st, 2012. So we have 2 weeks, really, maybe less than 2 weeks, to kind of get all this information submitted to the Department of Education. So it's going to be really important that you do collect all this information for work study and your community service hours. You get your student accounts officer, business office to provide you Perkins loan information, FISAP. You can certainly start updating the federal website and then do all your edits as you collect information and update the application appropriately. The ROR FS12 is going to be the primary job that we're going to be looking at here. It does already take into consideration that the automatic zero EFC threshold has been increased from the Department of Education to the $31,000 for the 11-12 year. Okay. With 15, I'm not sure if you've all caught on to it. They added new enrollment calculators, if you will, the standard and the repeat calculations. Not sure if you are using that, but it's something to be aware of. The FISAP process uses a standard enrollment calculation to determine who's full-time or part-time. The recalculation we all need to be aware of just determines not so much the student's enrollment eligibility, but to determine how much financially that student can get if they are repeating a course for the third time in which they've already passed it twice. Okay, so something to be aware of. To get the process started, we're all going to run this job, ROR FS12. That's a job that will create and update the financial information, program information into the temporary tables. And you'll see that I provide you the estimated initial run values you need in this job. So we go over them. The first parameter is 1112. It's going to ask you the aid year. Parameter 2 gives you the option to create and or print the report itself. Option B allows you to create and print that information to generate the report. This is what determines to populate the temporary table information in Banner. The temporary table and the form is ROA FSAP. Those of you, if I talk too fast, we're going to get to that in a few slides after this. Okay. Perkins paid, number 3, 4, and 5 are pretty much the same thing. The question will be is, do you do that work study information into the system? I have a few schools that I work with here that don't do work study at all in the system. But when it comes time to do the FISAP, where they collect the information from payroll and then go into their system and put the actual offer amount to match what the student's earnings were during that particular period. So when you're using these values, you have to know your data and what's accurate. So that school would use number 3 and 4 showing the paid amount for Perkins and SEOG. They use the offered amount and for work study because they don't pay the work study payroll through the financial aid side or record it there. I would suggest that even without HR or payroll, that schools really consider using the work study process inside Banner. It's very easy to use, provides better control in terms of budgeting, allows great reports for those schools who monitor when student earnings are getting close to having earned their full allocation or authorization. Works very, very well, and it saves you a tremendous amount of time and effort. Plus, when you're looking at doing verification in subsequent years, you see the earnings from subsequent years when you're doing verifications that are to look at need-based work eligibility. Okay. Enrollment status looks at the student's information, whether or not they're going to look at actual hours or adjusted hours. And you can sort the information by income or by name. That's based on preference, not so much based on any kind of need to make sure the information is accurate. And you're all paying attention in this. 8, 9, 10, 11 really is not necessary here. I spoke with someone this morning who was trying to run the FISAP report and kept erroring out. What they forgot to do was populate their undergraduate level codes and the graduate level codes, so 12 through 49 and 50 through 87. Yes, there's a lot of values here. Because schools have different level codes in the system, you need to make sure you're putting in the right level codes to elect your programs. So I was talking about this morning, just as an undergraduate and a graduate level. So they only had to populate 12 and 13. 12 and 13 were level and what is considered full-time, 12 credits, and then 50 and 51, which is graduate level GR, with they're saying that full-time for them is 6 credits. So as long as you populate that information correctly, you should get an output that is successful. Not saying it's right because you haven't verified that data yet, but at least to provide you an output that where you can do some data checking. What you do to reconcile the data with this, reconciling that report and the system, you're going to use a variety of different information in the system. The RFI BUDD allows you to track the number of students for each fund to make sure that when you're looking at the program grid, it's picking up all the students that it should be. Using RAP Award, there's an award report, RPRAWRD, or you can use RAP Award. You can compare the disbursement amounts that show up on the report to what you're seeing in Banner. There's a data discrepancy report. The RSRDSCP allows you to see prior degree history. And if anything's different, you can update the ROA FSAP form. And then, depending on if you have these information, you can use any institutionally developed population selections to look at independent, first generation, anything that you need to verify the information that's going to be available to you on the report. I would recommend not going student by student by student because you could have thousands of students on here, but do an appropriate test sample, whether that be 25 to 50 students that you're going to validate the data against. That'll give you, a rough estimate, and it's acceptable to use that kind of audit to verify your accuracy. reconcile that data, you would need to obviously rerun the process to update the ROR FSAP table. Okay, you can do there. You can make manual changes to any data that you find is incorrect. So if you see that there's work study information that hasn't carried over because, for example, you don't pay work study in the system, you can make those changes there. Okay. Once you update the system to reflect the necessary changes based on your data validation, when you run the ROR FS job, it'll provide you with any edits now. It'll tell you that information doesn't exist and needs to be resolved. So with that said, and I know it's relatively fast, we're going to open this up to the group here and provide you the opportunity to ask any questions now before we go on this continue. Okay. So if anyone has any questions, I am unmuting each one of you right now. Your phones should all be open. You type something, or you can ask a question. So if you're online, everyone's phone is now unmuted. You can certainly feel free to ask any questions. Any questions at all? All right. Looks like we're making some good progress. So I'm going to mute all the phones again. If you guys have questions, what I suggest at this point is you can certainly send a question to the question and answer portion of it, and we'll respond to you that way. And then we'll review questions and answers at the end of this session. All right, so when we go to rerun this job after we do all the validation, and this is the easiest part, I would say, of doing the FISAP process, is getting the information on a banner. I wish there was an export process that would take all this data and we can upload the information into FISAP, but there's no upload functionality at all. So it makes, you have to do all the data entry, which is unfortunate. But when you run ROR FS12, you're doing is rerunning everything the same with the exception of one item, and that's parameter 2 as C. That replaces any temporary data on ROR FSAP with the correct information that you've updated. And we'll update the list file that you can review. And list file, for those of you who are relatively new, that's the report that generates from Banner to do. So it generates that list file for you to review one more time before you print this file out to update FISAP and to provide it to the auditors. Okay. Additional validating points that I like looking at is looking at RNINIQ. That's to verify the total income that's reported on the FISAP report. Is it pulling the correct information? Using RNINA to make sure that the dependency status is accurate. Okay. Using RAP Award to make sure that the information that pulling on that report for work study, SCOG, and Perkins is correct. We talked about RFI, BUDG, and RSR, DCSP, the discrepancy report, to identify data elements that might be discrepant that need to be reviewed. Again, for suggestions, you certainly may have others if you have some knowledge of doing this or you're just looking to refresh your course. But these are some of the major pieces that I would use when having done the FISAP report myself. Okay, I know I'm spoiled. I don't have to do the FISAP report any longer, but I understand the pain that you all have to go through in order to get it taken care of. Now, making your final adjustments here, again, it is optional. Adjustments on the form are optional. It's not required, but areas that I know of specifically that I need to look at is any earnings for work study after that June 30th time frame here, where it crosses the 8 years, would need to be updated manually, especially if you're including it as part of the 11-12 year. If you don't, then your work study earnings that you're reporting as wages would not match what finance has would not be reported to on the campus-based report accurately. So that's one thing to be aware of. In my first years of doing that and running this report, there's one area that I didn't catch on, and I was always trying to figure out what the heck happened. It's because the system doesn't look for any earnings past June 30th. Now, that goes likewise. If you still have summer as a period and you provide Perkins loans or SCOG past June 30th, you're going to need to make those changes manually as well, and you would do those right on the ROA FSAP form. Now, here's a copy of that form. If you never knew what it existed, this is just a little screen print of what the form looks like. What you would do to go into this form is choose the aid year after you run the ROR FS12 job initially. You would go here and in order to pull data into it, your next block, and then hit F8 or execute query. That will populate this form with all the information that's thrown up on the FISAP report, but allows you to update it manually before you do a final print. Now, you've done all your data validation. You've done all your goals to ensure that the information is accurate. You would then go back to printing this final report. That would then be your final document to update the FISAP application. So when you go back to ROR FS12, again, you've run this 3 times. And by running it multiple times, doesn't make a difference here, but you're going to use parameter 2 set to P. This then prints both the detail and summary reports that you need to populate the FISAP application. Simple, easy. We're not looking at, doing brain surgery or rocket science here. This is really, truly just looking at our ability to just print this report that provides the necessary information to update the application. The FISAP report will include your student listings, the ink grid, the program summary grid, and the control summary. So it kind of gives you, and I did a little screen print here, of what the FISAP report would look like. This is not the income grid, but a portion of this to look at what's being reported to you. The student name, the ID, the FISAP income, do they qualify for Auto Zero EFC, the dependency status, the level, the graduate without a degree, undergraduate with a degree, the graduate location, were they full-time, part-time, what age did they qualify for, and the amount they qualified for. This will be very, very big. And if you have multiple locations that share the same database, so for example, I have a school in Florida that has a law school in Tampa and a undergraduate school in Orlando, they have the same database. So then when they run this report, it's going to include both all their graduate students and all their undergraduate students. If you have different locations, but you share the same database here, that's one thing where we're going back to looking at ROR FS12 and this population selection information there. You want to make sure that you're excluding those students shouldn't be included on your FISAP report. I don't know of too many instances where that would be the case. You have the opportunity to only pull the students that you really want to focus on. In this case, all these students receive financial aid. All these students actually have need to be reported as part of the FISAP. So just something to be considered when you're reviewing your data. That's it. Really, to many people's amazement, that generating the information out of Banner is fairly easy. You've gone through all this time and effort of having to maintain the system, and now this report just pulls all this information. Again, it has to exist. If it doesn't exist, then you have to make the changes manually or have all this information added to the system as part of the process to ensure this. So when you're doing New Year roll, when you're doing awarding and everything, that integrity that goes into the year-long process of awarding aid is really what drives the information that's available to you. So that's really the presentation. I'm going to unmute the phones one final time here, and if you have questions about this process, feel free to ask. There's no question that's too simple. There's no question that we can't help try to resolve or answer for you, this is just basic information. We are recording this PowerPoint presentation for you, and if you would like to go back to it, we'll shoot an email out to you to let you know where to retrieve this information. So any questions? Phones are open.
Yes, you said that if the information does not exist, we add it manually. Are we adding it to like RAP award, or are we adding it to the FISAP report?
You're to ROA FSAP. So let me pull that back up for you. So this right here, ROA FSAP, if you run the initial ROR FS12 job, it populates this form. Okay? You can manually make changes to ROA FSAP, save that information transactional change. Then when you run ROR FS12 again in create mode, that updates the report to reflect the changes that you made. So you're not making changes to RAP award or anything. You can certainly do so, but it's moot. You don't want to make changes on RAP award and then make changes here. Questions? All right. If there are not, you can feel free. Here's my information. If you want to reach out to me, feel free to call me with any questions. This is an opportunity for you to get this taken care of. If there's any questions about getting it resolved or getting the information there, I'm shooting up to you. It's available to you. So I appreciate everybody signing up for this. If there's feedback that you would like to have us maybe that our next presentation includes, or something you feel like we've missed, let us know. And we take everything that you provide to us very seriously, and we want to make sure we include that. Our next webinar will be based on New Year Roll to kind of go through and helping schools do that. So if there's nothing else, we record-setting 30-minute PowerPoint presentation on doing the FISAP. I wish you all the best success in getting that information taken care of. If you go through the process and find that there's still issues when you run your report and you need some clarification, don't hesitate to either call or shoot me an email. And I really appreciate everyone, taking the time out of their day to participate in this. All right, thank you all. And again, if you have any questions at all, do not hesitate to email or call. I'll get back to you as soon as I can. Have a great weekend, and best luck with the FISAP.